Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is a video on a decision I've made not to continue being a moderator or be a part of a fan community after Google Plus ends. I'm currently the moderator of a Power Rangers group on Google Plus, and that's coming to an end on April 2nd, and I just wanted to do a video on that decision and just, my thoughts on online fandom in general and how my feelings have kind of evolved over the years. But first of all, I just want to say that most of my interactions on that group have been wonderful. It has been a fantastic experience that I'm truly, truly grateful for. I did another video just highlighting all the really great posts and people on that group, and I highly recommend you check it out. I'll put a link in the comments below. And before I talk about online fandom and my thoughts on that, I just want to say that generally, online participation in a website or an app is a temporary thing. Very few people are going to stick with one service or one group forever. And so the time I've spent on this group, and I've been on there since Megaforce, so that's been over 5 years, is a very long time, for an online community. And I was pretty much drafted into it during Megaforce. And if I hadn't been, I would have watched the next season, Super Megaforce, which is why I've been waiting for. I would have thoroughly enjoyed it, and then because I was there for the 25th anniversary and Jason David Frank's cameo and all that good stuff, I would have thoroughly enjoyed that season, and then I would have just moved on with my life because Dino Charge, the next season, just didn't have any interest to me. I just didn't care for it at all, so I wouldn't have watched it normally. But since I was a moderator, I kept going with the series, kept watching this show to moderate, the discussion on the group. And I'm glad I did, because otherwise Ninja Steel, which was the next series in the franchise, wouldn't have been on my radar. And I watched that, and I really enjoyed that, and that has a really special place in my heart. And more importantly, being a moderator on that group let me help a lot of people and let me, kind of keep this community going that I hope people felt comfortable discussing something that they enjoy. But I will also say, just to kind of use the Power Rangers analogy, being a moderator is a little bit like being a Power Ranger. And I don't mean that to be presumptuous. I mean, just kind of the arc of it and the kind of the feel of it, you go into it, with very noble intentions, and you're very honored to do it. You're very honored to try to help people and serve people. But at the same time, it does take a toll on you. And, at the end of every Power Rangers series, the Rangers, hand in their powers, and then the torch is passed to the next team, the next season. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm ready to, just kind of hand in my morpher and just walk off into the sunset and go do other things with my life right now. And again, a lot of that's just natural. You just kind of move on after a while. Time is limited. There's a lot of things you'd like to do in life. But there is also just the fact that I really, really decreased my participation in online fandom over the years, and because it takes its toll on you. And I feel like my ability to enjoy the show has been diminished a little bit by just having to participate in fandom online. And, not necessarily on the group, though sometimes that too, but just in general, because I'll have to keep tabs of things, and it just, sometimes the negativity just seeps into your pores. And if you'll indulge me, I just want to go through kind of my history with online fandom and just kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. So back in the late 90s, I was actually pretty active on online discussion boards, and I would discuss, things that I was really into at the time. And, you know, sometimes it would last a while. Sometimes it would be, a few months or a few years because, not all the groups had the same quality of discussion. And a lot of the groups, kind of had their bad apples. And so there were trolls. And, for instance, there was a troll. I think it may have been the same one for both these threads I'm about to mention. But one was he posted different ways that they could execute Stan Lee. Like, how would you like Stan Lee to die? And again, this is the late 90s, and Marvel and Stan Lee at the time were vilified for various reasons. And so instead of people being like, oh my God, what are you doing? That was actually a very heavily participated in thread that everyone just typed about how much they hated Stan Lee. And another beauty was there was a female creator who was writing comics at the time who made, I guess, the horrible sin of dating another comic creator. Oh my God. And so this troll posted that she performed some sexual acts in order to get a job at a various comic company. And again, instead of being rebuked, this began a very long thread about how a lot of people hated this comic creator. So these are not new phenomenon. And unfortunately, trolls are just so much more common now. Online harassment is just legion. And, there are entire groups and movements built around this type of behavior. Of course, the, more prominent people in them, kind of rephrase things and kind of try to give themselves plausible deniability, like, oh, it's just criticism, but, it's pretty much, it's pretty much the same sentiments. And then there are the people who aren't trolls, but they won't allow any opinion other than their own to exist. They will take every thread, every post, and they will dominate it. They will argue down every single person who has any type of opinion other than their own. They will make sure nothing is said about that property other than what they think about it, whether it's how much they hate it or how much they love it and you must love it too. They are legion. A prime example of this was back in the late 90s was John Byrne. It was very fashionable to hate John Byrne. Any mention of him would be flooded with people coming to your thread telling you how much they hated him, which was almost always off topic. And it was just maddening. And it didn't have to be a mention of John Byrne. It could be something he was working on. Just a character like, for instance, Wonder Woman. Okay, he did Wonder Woman in the late 90s. You ask a question about George Perez's Wonder Woman run in the 1980s, you would never get any response on that. It would just be flooded with people saying how much they hated John Byrne. It was so bad that Byrne created his own website with its own discussion board, and that was literally the only place you could go on the entire internet and discuss John Byrne in a neutral or positive way. There was just no way to do it anyplace else. And to kind of bring that to a modern Power Ranger example was Super Mega Force. And there was a lot of that going on. And probably the most egregious was there was a post I saw about using Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, not Super Mega Force, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, to encourage kids to exercise. This was on Facebook, and, just a perfectly harmless, nice post, trying to do something positive. And it was, of course, overwhelmed by people screaming about Super Mega Force. There was one comment that said it was raping Gokaiger, which is the Sentai is based on, and just inappropriate, just wholly inappropriate for a post like that. And this was just very, very common. And I will tell you that I tried watching some Gokaiger, and I love Gokaiger. I mean, it is a freaking amazing series, but just trying to sit through some of the episodes after I experienced all that hostility towards pretty much anybody discussing it, including myself. I did experience some stuff personally. It was just hard to sit through. I just couldn't enjoy it because I just kept thinking like, okay, they did this in the American version and it was fine. Why were people harassing everyone over it? I mean, it was just, the negativity just seeps into your pores and it's hard to get out. And I know that is unfair to the people who made the Sentai. It is not their fault how the American fans react to it. It is not their fault. They did not create these people who harass and sometimes unintentionally just kill all other conversation about that franchise. But it was hard to get that association out of my head. And I hope someday to be able to watch Sentai and enjoy it, but it's just hard for me to do right now because of that. And to an extent, Power Rangers is like that for me as well. I feel like it's kind of diminished my ability to enjoy the franchise because I'm always thinking about people who are just, the things that I've had to deal with online because of people's, hate for the Saban era. It's hard for me to sit there and not have that in the back of my head. And I think, you need to think about, if you are going to go out there and be like, I am a fan of this, you need to think about how you're presenting yourself. Because it's just like a religion or a political party or any organization. If you go out there and you say, I am a part of this, and you carry yourself in a way that leaves negative feelings with people, that just disgusts people or turns them off, they're going to associate that with whatever group you're with, whether that's a fandom, again, or a political party or whatever. That's going to turn them off, and that is going to be associated with them, your behavior. So please think about that when you're out there online. And then there's the inappropriate personal way that people have these discussions where they'll start calling the people who disagree with them hypocrites or ignorant, or they're stupid, or they can't understand what they're talking about, or you're not a real fan because you don't have this opinion, and all this stuff. And look, I understand not everyone knows when they piss off someone else, and a lot of times it's not intentional, but anytime you start making an argument personal, you're probably going to piss someone off. You're getting into inappropriate territory. Argue about the work, argue about the craft. Do not argue about the other person. Who they are as a person doesn't matter if you're talking about your opinion about a show. It does not matter who the other person is on the internet connection. And the same goes for the way that people talk about the people putting out, comics or movies or whatever, whatever this work is. You talk about the work, you talk about the craft, but unfortunately people keep making it personal. Oh, they're lazy. Oh, they're stupid. They don't care. And brother, I promise you, most of these things are not true. If you want to be wrong 9 times out of 10, yes, go ahead and try to read the people's minds who create the things that you consume. But I will tell you, as someone who has put out a comic book for a few issues, there is a dramatic amount of difference between the work it takes to read something and the work it takes to create something. If you're talking about a TV show, these people devote months of their freaking life to this. It's very, very hard work. It's very long hours. Yeah, they do care. You know, sometimes things don't work out the way you want to. Sometimes, you know, that scene, you know, was envisioned in a way, and for whatever reason, it doesn't get out quite as well as you would like it to. And sometimes maybe they just make creative decisions that you don't agree with. Big frickin' deal. And of course, there are the people who take that personal level of insults to completely inappropriate places and start talking about the creator's gender, their sexuality, their freaking haircut, and what they look like, and just nothing that has anything to do with what you're talking about. If you don't like a show, don't like the show. Don't start talking about the creator's personal life and what they look like and all this stuff. I have She-Ra up here for a reason. And I am sorry I'm getting a little testy, but this is kind of cathartic for me because I haven't really talked about this a whole lot on my channel. So as a general rule of thumb, if you can't tell what is appropriate to post, ask yourself, would you want it to be posted about you? Would you want someone to say that about you? Would you want someone to say that about your child? Would you want someone to say that about your spouse? Would you want someone to say that about your friend? If you would not say it to someone's face, don't post it online. And not only do people seem to be threatened by anything they don't agree with, but they also seem to be threatened by the idea that anything they hate could possibly be successful in any way, and will do the mental gymnastics to make it fail in their head, no matter how many awards, how many readers, how many viewers, how many people who bought tickets for it and saw it in the movie theaters. It will always be a failure, and they will perpetuate this online no matter what the facts say. And if they can't do that, then they will actually go on a campaign and try to make it happen. And there will be boycotts and review bombs and all this stuff. And it's exhausting. A large part of fandom seems to have this Stalker X type of mentality where, they used to love, this person, and then after they broke up, they hate them, but they're obsessed with them. Like they have to follow every single thing they're doing just to talk about how much they hate it. And it's kind of weird because normally when you don't like something, you just move on. If I don't like a TV show, I just stop watching it and I move on with my life, and maybe I'll come back and try another season and see if it got any better. But I'm not going to sit there and watch it just so I can rip it apart online and just obsess over it for years and years. I mean, that's just the natural way of life. But for some reason, fans feel like they have to be lifetime fans even once the franchise has moved on to other things, that may not appeal to them. And I understand that these problems are not isolated to fandom. I understand fandom is a reflection of society. And I understand society has gotten way more tribal, that the anonymity of the internet has resulted in a lot of people feeling like they can say a lot of inappropriate things to their fellow human beings. I understand this. It's just difficult to deal with all at once sometimes. And, I go online, I look at my social media feed, and oftentimes my soul just wants to shrivel. So I want to take some time to kind of rejuvenate my spirit and my mind, and maybe just kind of step back a little bit. Like I said, most of these problems are not with Power Rangers. A lot of them are, but some of them, a lot of other fandoms have them much worse. And it just, I would like not to be like soaking in that stuff 24/7. Just like take a little bit of time and unplug. Not saying that, you know, I'm not going to make videos about fandom. Obviously, that's what my channel does. You know, I've got toy reviews, I got comic reviews. You know, if a movie or something else catches my eye, I'll certainly do, you know, videos on that. But, you know, right now, just kind of stepping away from kind of the day-to-day involvement in that sort of thing. And I'm not saying goodbye forever for Power Ranger fandom. I mean, to use that analogy, again, for Power Rangers, you know, at the end of their series, they do go away, but oftentimes they will come back for a team up. So that's very possible once a Ranger and all that good stuff. So, but right now, I would just like to wish everyone on the Google Plus board a safe journey. As they say on Eternia, a good journey. Wherever you end up, have fun. And may the power protect you. And I'll see you around.